Hello, viewers and listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Pathways to the Ivies. Today on our show, we're going to discuss something very different and a topic that we have never ever dabbled before. The topic is gaining an edge on your UC application. Practical strategies that can help students create a standout application and navigate admissions to the increasingly competitive STEM, engineering, pre-med and tracks and business majors as a part of your UC application. So if you are an applicant who is really interested in getting to one of the UC universities, or you're from the state of California and thus UCs are in state for you, this episode is specially meant for you. And on today's episode, we have somebody very special, Jyoti Jain. Jyoti is an independent education consultant from the Bay Area, California. She has a STEM background and specializes in working with students interested in pursuing STEM, engineering, CS, pre-med tracks, and business as well. She regularly presents on STEM related topics. She's done a couple of webinars for us at the IECA conference. Also, she's made these presentations and has also been a featured guest on several STEM related podcasts. In her private practice and volunteer work, she has supported numerous students of all abilities in one on one and group setting in exploring selective majors at the UCs and other colleges with successful outcomes. Jyoti, welcome to the show. I am so happy to have you today on the show. Give all your insights to our students. How does that feel like?
Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. Thank you for having me, Reema. I'm so excited to talk about this topic.
Me too. And I think since both of us, are kind of in California, and this podcast may have a lot of reach for the Californian kids, I think it will be very, very insightful because, as we all know, Californian kids like to stay in California because not only is it in state, but just Californian sun is hard to, kind of let go. So let's get started. So now let's start with the very first question since we're focusing completely on UCs. So, for the viewers and listeners tuning in for the first time or getting, into the application process, probably, eighth graders, ninth graders, UCs stands for University of California. And all the colleges, there are nine colleges under the UCs umbrella, and we term them as UCs. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing in this podcast. So that this is just for the record. But yeah, and they have a separate app that they use as compared to the common app where most of the colleges are. So this application has a separate admission application process and separate stuff. So we're going to discuss that in a little more detail, and with that we can start our very first question. The first question is, how do the UCs evaluate applicants, and how is that different from the other colleges, like UCs as one and the rest of the colleges as others?
Yeah, that actually is a very, very important question. So, the UC system, as Reema was mentioning earlier, there are nine UC undergraduate campuses, and there's only one application, the UC application, and that goes to all the nine campuses. The way the evaluation is done is that each campus evaluates the applicants separately. So, they don't know who's admitting whom, and then so each campus does their own independent evaluation, and then if you're admitted, you learn from that campus that you're in. If you're not, you learn about that. So when the UCs, they use the holistic admissions process in their review, and they use 13 comprehensive factors to evaluate, and these include academic performance, extracurricular involvement, personal insight responses. Also, they look at context, so where the student is at, the environment from where the student is coming, what's available at their high schools, all that really matters. So they take into consideration the background of the applicant as well. So as I was mentioning, each UC does their own independent selection process, and they also look at comprehensive factors which are quantitative and qualitative. So keep that in mind if you're an applicant. And they look at also the 15 college prep A through G coursework. So there is a certain coursework pattern that you have to show that you have the readiness level for the rigor of the UC academics. So those are some of the things. So showing that you are a competitive applicant means that you take into consideration the rigor, the academics, as well as the qualitative factors, the extracurriculars.
That's good to know. These are like, I believe, 15 factors you mentioned.
Yeah, there's 13 comprehensive factors and there's 15 A through G coursework preparation required.
Okay, so I mean, as you said, each of these UCs wet out these applicants separately. There is no independent correlate, like there's no correlation. But is one of these 13 factors given a higher priority over the other when it comes to the UCs? This is just for my curiosity that, let's take two of the most prestigious UCs, UC Berkeley and UCLA. So, is there like what are the top five out of these for UC Berkeley versus UCLA, or that's not the case?
So each UC weights the factors differently. So, for example, there are some campuses like the UC Riverside, UC Merced campus. They use the more weightage on the quantifiable factors like the GPA. So some UCs, on the other hand, they look at there's no fixed weight given to the. So, for example, UCLA, UC Berkeley, they're going to not give that extra weightage to they take everything into consideration.
Okay. So are these things also available on the university website? How do you kind of gain an insight for somebody who's just starting out or, in this process doesn't probably have, somebody assisting them? How do you know that this UC is more holistic versus this UC considers GPA over other factors? Is there like anything?
Yeah, so I believe if you go on the website, they do provide you like what are some of the things they look at, and also what majors are available there. uh, the way that I would do it is, if you're really starting out and then you really want to know what's going on, is that go to the campus websites, look at like what are their considerations, look at what majors are available there, and they also tell you like what all things, even with the personal insight questions, what they're looking for. The UCs are very transparent. They even have data on like the outcomes from your high school. So there's a lot of data available that you can actually play around with, and you can see what's going on at each campus.
Gotcha. And that's pretty insightful. Good to know,
Yeah.
that the website in itself is just so equipped. So that's good to know. I have a second very important consideration, and I can't question actually. And I can't tell you how many times I've been asked this question. So why don't you, address the elephant in the room? Are the UCs genuinely considering reinstating the standardized testing to be a part of the holistic review process because they're test blind? And then, there have been these chatters around bringing it back. So what is the truth of the situation?
Yeah, so right now, as we know it, the UCs are still going to be test free this cycle. So they're not going to look at tests. They test blind or test free. They will not look at tests. So even if you give them the standardized test, it's not going to be part of the consideration. They might use the tests to look at maybe your course placement if you're admitted, but they're not going to use it as factor it in the review process. Yes, there's been a lot of chatter and the about bringing reinstating the test, and the latest greatest on that is that many of the UCs, right, the faculty members, they found out that the math preparation gaps exist with the students that are in there, and they were concerned that these students are not going to be able to stand the rigors of a UC education. And that's the reason the UC Academic Senate, is now trying to review that and take it into consideration whether and make that final recommendation whether to reinstate the standardized testing. and that is expected to be coming out by, I think, June of 2027. So for this cycle, it's still test free, but in the future, for the next one, we don't know. So it could possibly change.
Okay. What do you think? What's your personal take on it? Do you think they will swing to test, maybe optional, right? Right now they're test blind, maybe not test compulsory, maybe test optional, right? So if you send in the score, we will look at the score. What's your personal take on this, Jyoti?
I think it's quite a possibility, yes. And most of the schools, actually, the selective schools have moved back to testing. So I'm assuming that this is where uh, the testing landscape is headed.
Well, we'll have to find out what UCs come out with and what is it that they want to implement, but hopefully. All right, next and the third question. Is the UC system reviewing the current UC A through G framework it uses to address college level academic preparedness? Or, is there another alternate way that they're going to actually review college academic level preparedness? What's your take on this?
Yeah, so actually, the boards committee, which is the California Academic Senate Board of Admissions and Relations with Schools, that's the boards committee. They are conducting a comprehensive evidence based like review of all the A through G requirements, along with the broader undergraduate admissions policies, to kind of reevaluate how the system defines and measures college readiness. So, definitely, they are taking it into consideration. They're examining the current number of, and subject areas required of the 15A through G, coursework that I was talking about earlier. And they're also assessing, like, what student preparedness challenges and outcomes, and they also taking that input. They're consulting with K through 12 partners and the state board of education to come up with any changes that they want to make.
Okay, awesome. So I think that is also subject to, I mean, we'll have to see in times to come to see whether, that stays or, the requirement is amended, scrapped off, and different requirement comes through. But that's good. Any particular reason why UCs is planning to go through so many reformations? The way they evaluate the academic preparedness is going through a change. uh, Tests are being contemplated to bring back. So, any particular reason why, this change is coming through?
Yeah, I think it's because they are seeing like a lot of gaps in the math readiness, and they are really worried that these students are coming to their campuses will not be able to be successful at their campus. So they're not
Gotcha.
ready, they're not prepared with that rigor that's needed to be successful at the UCs.
Understood. Fair enough. Makes sense. All right. So, this is good. So, let's talk about this from the perspective of students. How can students demonstrate academic preparation when applying to selective majors like STEM, engineering, CS, etc. at the UCs?
Yeah, so the UCs are seeking for intellectually curious students, who can thrive, as I said, in challenging environments. So that's one of the things. To stand out at a UC, you need to have not only taken the A through G coursework, the minimum requirement, but gone beyond it. So you really need to take those advanced classes, any honors, advanced placement, the AP classes, or if your school has an IB curriculum, maybe the IB coursework. Sometimes you also need to go beyond that. So you need to show that for competitive majors like engineering, for example, right, you need to show that at least you've taken advanced level coursework in calculus. Maybe if your school has AP calculus BC track, or you need to also show physics, advanced physics C, E&M. So all of these coursework has to be and maybe sometimes even go beyond that. So take advanced courses like differential equations or linear algebra, so you're showing college level coursework in high school. And they also want to see that you're having a rigorous senior year curriculum. So you shouldn't be slacking off in the senior year. If you've taken a certain amount of APs, or let's say honors or advanced coursework, you need to at least show you're just doing the same amount in senior year, or maybe a little bit more. So the challenging coursework requirements is something you're showing: calculus level, math, and advanced physics C for engineering students. And for generally for STEM students, you want to show advanced level courses in physics, chemistry, biology, and math. For business students, you want to show that you at least math advanced coursework, as well as maybe macroeconomics. You could also do AP stats, so some of that. So each depending on the major, there might be a little bit tweaking into what advanced coursework you need to do.
Gotcha. I also have a question, and this is just out of curiosity. So, since in the Bay Area specifically, right, it is such a high achiever group of students, a lot of Asian dominant, and it becomes in state for a lot of kids, right? So, what do you think is the ideal number of APs? Normally, I've heard people take like 10 APs, 11 APs, 12 APs through their high school. Of course, this is not junior or senior year. But do you recommend a certain number of APs through the high school if you are in state for the state of California, and also for the out of state California, I mean, out of state kids? Like, is there a certain number that would put you at an advantage for the UCs?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. It's like the $1 million question I get asked by every family who wants to go to the UCs. So, what I would say is that for each of the UCs, right, what you want to do is at least show that, as I was saying, it really depends on your high school profile. It comes down to that. So you're not, and also some of the high schools are really coming down on the number of APs that the kids can take because of the stress that it gives. So many schools don't even allow like AP coursework maybe in freshman year. So or sophomore year or whatever, just one or two. So it really depends on the high school. So you're not going to be dinged for not doing advanced coursework if your high school doesn't recommend it. And the context is always the high school. What's available at your high school, and what has the student done to take advantage of the courses available at their high school. So, so keep that in mind. So what's available at your high school? Have you taken advantage, and taken that advanced coursework in the major that you want to get admitted to? So
So there's no recommended number of courses. Depends on which high school, which school district, how many courses they allow you, and you can pick. But of course, in the senior year, you should demonstrate the ability of going above and beyond what you are truly capable of, and that's what will actually kind of make the mark. Did I rephrase that correct?
yeah, and also keep in mind that you're going to be viewed in context to your peers. So there's a lot of data available per high school, and that actually tells you the GPA and the AP coursework taken by your peers, how many, and who were admitted, and who enrolled. So the UCs really breaks it down. It's very transparent.
And are these peers from the same school, or are
Yes.
they? Okay,
So
good.
it's from your school. So they'll tell you exactly the GPA, the UCA through G GPA of the students admitted at that particular campus. It breaks it down by campus, and it'll tell you exactly how many, what AP coursework was taken as well, like how many of them. So you could easily look at that, and then you could see, okay, this is the amount of APs my school peers are doing, right? The historic data. And this is the ballpark GPA that, you know, is of students from my school who are getting admitted at that particular campus.
Okay, so that's a great answer. Let's get started with the next question. So many students feel the pressure to join every club available, right? Um, how much does leadership, initiative, and impact really matter as compared with the number of activities, especially from the perspective of a UC application?
Yeah, that's the other great question, So the UC's, the admissions officer is not looking for like gazillion extracurricular activities. What they're trying to see is that has the student taken interest in and developing that exploration of that particular major. So what have they done? So to explore that major in high school, and so like for example, like if a sophomore, let's say, likes environmental science, maybe they joined an environmental science club, maybe they did some research, they developed some local initiative, some advocacy work, they worked with a community organization, they created a project with the measurable impact. So what they want to see is that progress. They started with that interest, they explored the major, then they showed some initiative, and then they had an impact in their community. So it's more about, what did the student actually do with their interest. It's not so much about how many extracurriculars they participated in. And it's not about checking every box, like community service, volunteer, competition, science clubs. You don't have to do all of it, but you definitely have to show what did you do to explore your major and what kind of impact you had.
So the UC activity list is 20 activities long, to the best of my knowledge. Is it okay if you can't fill out each of those 20 activities, or is that, I mean, will you be at a disadvantage because this is directly linking to it? A lot of students come back and be like, oh, X student had like 20 activities, actually more than 25, 20 activities, and they had to list that in the additional information section. And I only have like 12 or 13, which I can really quantify as meaningful. Do you think this person who had 12 or 13 would be at disadvantage as somebody who's 20? Meaningful activities, of course.
Not at all. So I've had students have as few as 5 or 6 activities, but really doing that meaningful, impactful work in each of those activities, and land up at the flagship UCs like UC Berkeley, UCLA.
So, number of activities don't matter. How much impact those activities have created is a lot more important than just putting those numbers out there and say, hey, I did this, this, this. That's actually a great point for everybody to note, because I think the most common thing that people think is I should have more activities, more clubs, more everything. What they fail to realize is more is not necessarily good. Quality is, depth is, amount of work and impact is far more important than the number. So that's good to know. The next question that I have is, what are the common mistakes you see students make during their sophomore and junior years that hurt their competitiveness for selective majors at the UCs?
Yeah, the most common mistake that I see is that the student doesn't begin to explore their major early on in the process. Because the earlier you do your exploration, the more it gives you a chance to dive deeper into the major. So I would say start that exploration early. One more thing I see that's lacking is the authenticity and engagement in the activities. So it's more like they're doing it for the sake of what they think the admissions officer wants to see rather than what their actual interest is. And that authenticity and engagement is very, very key. So it's
Got it.
important. Yeah.
Got it. Good to know that you have to kind of be authentic to who you are. That is super important. That's what kind of makes it, meaning if you are an astrophysics major, don't try to show that you're a physics major or chemistry major. Just be true to yourself, build activities around that, and I think make activities that you truly enjoy rather than just making a portfolio out of it. So that's good to know. What can students do to prepare themselves to stand out in an applicant pool in these selective majors?
Yeah, so most of the selective majors like computer science, engineering, biology, all these are impacted majors at the UC campuses. So by impaction, I mean that there are very limited spots available and there are many applicants. So the competition is very fierce. So in order to stand out, you not only need to have demonstrated that academic prowess. So you need to take those advanced coursework going beyond the A through G curriculum, and also, show that you're doing not only college level coursework, but internships, research projects. You're really exploring, um, your field in advance, so that the UCs can see that, hey, this is a strong applicant, not only academically, but they have authentically engaged in extracurricular activities to demonstrate that passion, and diving deeper, showing that depth in the extracurricular engagement will really help the students stand apart.
Understood. Good to know that. And that is depth again. We keep on circling back to the same thing, right? Authenticity, depth, impact. So that's that. How important is it to choose the right major? And should students apply to the major that seems easier to get into, or the one that genuinely reflects their interest in preparation? That is actually a question that I really want to know.
Yeah, so the thing is not about, you don't want to choose, I would say, you don't want to game the system, so to speak. So, like, if you are thinking, okay, this is a lesser selective major, yeah, let me just apply to that. You don't want to do that, because gaming the system will not help. What you want to see is what is your story. So, right now, what is, the major that fits best to your story that you have so far developed? So let's say, you've done coursework, you've done research, all that indicates that you're interested in, applied physics, or maybe, aerospace, or whatever it is. So the story needs to align with where, the major that you're applying to.
Got it. So you shouldn't try to just get into the major that is easier to get into, because I think this is something that a lot of people use this as an application strategy, that you are going to get into the easier major. They in fact even create a profile around that and then eventually come and transfer. Don't you think if somebody wanted to, and this is just out of my curiosity, let's say if somebody wanted to get into computer science, anyways, computer science is the comparative major, and then they apply to that versus, let's say, English language and psychology, which is a relatively easier major to get in. And if the college is allowing transfer, don't you think it would be an easier way to get in strategically?
So yeah, the thing is that they have to keep in mind that, transfer is not an easy process, because yeah, you can get into, first of all, an admissions officer can really spot that you are a computer science student. It's written all over your resume, right? But you're applying to something, let's say, philosophy or psychology or whatever it is, you think, which is an easier major to kind of get into. You might have a harder time transferring into, CS or engineering or whatever, because that is very hard to do. So it's not that cut and dry. It's not like, oh, I choose a lesser selective major and later on I can transfer. It's not that. You'll have to show that you've done certain, credits for that major. There's a transfer process, and they might not even allow it. It really depends on the campus and the major that you're looking at.
So ideally, just try to get into something that is of your choice, rather than just trying to beat the system and say, hey, this is what is needed. I also have another question for you, and this is regarding the major only. How does one really select the right major? Like, for example, let's say I demonstrate an aptitude for computer science engineering, then I could do computer science engineering, I could do computer engineering, I could do data sciences, I could do information management. All of these are some or the other allied forms of computer science, right? So, how, as a student who is on the precipice of these different avenues, these are just off the top of my head. Of course, there could be many more. How do you select a major that is the most applicable to you? What do or would be the one where you think you could survive academically and otherwise?
Yeah, so that actually requires a lot of research on the students' behalf. So what I have the students do is, look at first what are their overall goals. Do they want to go to graduate school after? And would the major that they're selecting right now give them a pathway to that? So look at the curriculum. Look at what courses are being offered. Look at the outcomes. Let's say you don't want to go to grad school. Where are students who have done this major? Where are they ending up? Is that something that I want to do? Right? So
Fair enough.
it requires a lot of research on the part of the student as to where students who are doing this major, where are they headed, what is the outlook for that major, what are the starting salaries, depending on the student's goals, right? If the student wants to go to grad school, then is there a pathway? If I take this major, can I still go to grad school in the area that I want?
Fair enough, makes sense, and I think that's good. And this is essentially boils down to the student doing all the research by himself or herself, right? That this is what I want, this is where the school is, and this is where it puts me closer to what I needed to do in life. So that's great insight. That that's how essentially how you should be deciding the major. If you are advising a current sophomore or junior today, what are the three highest impact things they could do over the next year to strengthen their UC application?
Yeah, the biggest and the most important is prioritize your academic rigor and your performance. So make sure that you're taking coursework that is the honors, the advanced, the APs, the IB curriculum. You're showing that you're taking college level coursework in high school in the area, the major that you intended. You're going way above and beyond those 15 A through G courses required. So taking that academic rigor, and then senior year also showing the strength in the curriculum. So that is the first thing. The second thing I would say is developing depth rather than collecting a dozen of activities. So you don't need to collect so many activities, just deep dive into your interests, show that you're exploring your major, and you're taking initiative in your community and you're showing something impactful. So that is the second thing I would say. And then the third thing would be like, make sure that your personal insight questions are really you're really diving deeper into insights. So students shouldn't wait till after the summer of senior year to start writing those PIQs. I would say start writing them now, and talk about, like, especially for STEM students, my focus is on taking that initiative, problem solving, intellectual curiosity, demonstrating collaboration, all of that, which is important for STEM students.
Got it. Got it. Good to know that. The UCs actually has eight PIQs, which is person, insight questions, out of which the student is expected to write four, I believe, and each one of them is 350 words. But I wanted to understand two things here. How should a student approach the PIQs, personal insight questions of UCs, and how are they different from Common App or anything that's written on Common App?
Yeah, so the personal insight questions are a very important piece because the UC admissions does not look at teacher recommendations. So the personal insight questions are the only place that the student can talk about, who they are, what matters to them, and then share it with the UCs. So keep that in mind when you're writing your PIQs. They're a very, very important opportunity for you to highlight your unique story. As I was saying, your intellectual curiosity, your leadership qualities, your contribution to the community. So when you're looking at the 13 different factors that I was telling you earlier, make sure that because those are the factors, the holistic review factors, the comprehensive. So try to match those PIQs to demonstrate, at least some of those factors in your application when you're writing your PIQs. And also, you want to make sure that you have great insights. So let your PIQs be authentic and, share your personal journey, your aspirations, and show that how you're going to be contributing to this, vibrant campus community.
Sure. And how are these PIQs different from Common App again?
So the PIQs are very, very different, the writing style, than the Common App. The Common App gives you more room for like a narrative style of writing, creative style of writing. The PIQs, on the other hand, think about them as like, you're being interviewed. So write like in a conversational style, let it be, direct, concise, to the point. There's no room for like flowery language, quotes, and all of that in the PIQs.
Just need to be to the point and speak about the insights, like,
Yes.
what happened as a part of this activity, how did you change, what is the impact you had. Good to know that. Anyways, 350 words are too less, so that would be, kind of hard. So yeah, that's good to know. Do you recommend students use AI writing tools to craft their UCPIQs?
So the UCs actually do not. So the last conference also that I attended, the UC counselor conference, they very clearly said that they don't want students to use AI as a part of the, the process. They also do regular plagiarism checks. So let's say if they find that your PIQs are AI generated, they that could lead to disqualifying you. If you're admitted, you could be rescinded. So keep that in mind. I would say that, anyways, the AI is not able to write with authenticity and not able to personalize your essay as much as you yourself could. So, using AI, maybe, I don't know, as a thought partner, brainstorming, maybe, but at the same time, like completely 100% writing, using the AI for that might not be a very good idea. So stay away from AI as much as possible and write with authenticity and personalize your essays, because now I'm seeing the flip side. Many students are saying that they didn't use AI, but that, it looks like it's written by an AI. So try to really personalize your essays so that they don't sound like AI written.
Also, the other thing, and I'll just add to this before I wrap up my last question, is oftentimes, people are citing things from the website for some reason, right? Whether it's the PIQs, whether it's the regular Common App, and even things that are not written by AI get flagged as AI. I was talking to one of the ICs, and she said that, just to kind of look at things, she picked up some of the essays that were back from 2020, 2021, right? Much before the AI even came into picture. And even those the AI picked as AI, it was picked up as AI generated. So I mean, from the perspective of an IEC or independent counselor, it's like, of course, you should write it by yourself. But the student is like, you know what, whether I write it by myself or whether I just use AI as a brainstorming partner, right? Everything's going to get flagged as AI. Like, there is no authentic AI generator or detector per se which says this is really AI and this is not AI. And that is something that, the students have picked up. So it becomes even the more difficult to convince them to say, okay, don't use AI, do use your own brain, use your own creativity. But yeah, it's something that, I've seen it myself. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, like, I had a student actually who was flagged for his project that he did at school, and the teacher called him in and said, "Oh, this is AI written." And the student was like, "No, I didn't use AI at all." So he came to me and he had gotten a zero on the project. So I told him, like, okay, you haven't used AI, so maybe go to the teacher after office hours and show her your work. So he had it on Google Docs, so there's a history. So he could show her historic data, like go back and back and back to show, okay, this is not AI generated. This is all me working on this assignment. And then she looked at it and then she said, okay, that's fine. And she graded it fairly.
Yeah. So
So
again,
showing your work, having that proof that, okay, this is not AI generated, that's going to matter.
absolutely. And this is a huge limbo, right? I mean, this was one student. We're looking at thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of applicants who apply to the UCs. So I don't know. We'll see what time has to tell. What happens with the AI and whether non-AI written AI stuff really gets flagged or machine learning just evolves and knows this is AI slop, right? And they can really distinguish human intervention or human written stuff from the AI stuff. But good to know that. Finally, one last question. What message would you like every student and parent to remember about standing out in the UC's admissions process?
So if you ask me to pick one message, I would say that authenticity matters. It's not so much about collecting extracurriculars like for your resume, but it's more about where can the student go deeper and trying to understand, what your student really wants to explore authentically, and then letting them dive deeper. So showing that authenticity and impact is what I come back to again and again, because that's so much important to stand out in the process. That's what's going to help you stand out, not the gazillion activities that everybody else is doing.
Got it. Got it. All right. So I think this was a wonderful podcast, Jyoti. I learned so much as a part of this process. Any last words that you'd like to tell for our viewers, our listeners, high school parents, or anybody who is on this journey or is about to take the plunge into this journey? Any last words, Jyoti?
I would say take the time to explore and start earlier in the exploration process. So have your students, give them the freedom to really explore authentically, where they want to do, what they want to do, how they want to do it. And that will help them really stand out in the process.
Perfect. Jyoti, thank you so much for your time. This was a wonderful podcast. I learned so much about the UC applications, and I'm pretty sure everybody else will learn too, the people who are watching it. The goal of this podcast is to build something where, everybody can just use this as their central knowledge bank. So they want to talk to students, talk to parents, talk to counselors. We have live counselors and we've tackled session. For all the viewers and listeners, I hope this was useful to you as well. If there is a certain topic that you would like us to address in the next podcast, feel free to put in the comments section. But for now, this is Reema and Jyoti both signing off. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you're standing in, and see you next Sunday with another podcast.
Thank you, Rima. Pleasure to have this discussion with you.